My Lords, 20 years ago, on the 18th of December 2003, I spoke for Her Majesty's opposition in the second reading of the Gender Recognition Bill, a government bill that strangely had not been referenced in the gracious speech, though it had been scrutinised as a draft by the Joint Committee on Human Rights. I spoke in support of the bill, in principle, with the blessing of the then Leader of the Opposition, my noble and learned friend, Lord Howard of Lymm. I and others on these benches asked numerous questions and raised concerns, some echoing the ECHR. The bill lacked clarity and detail regarding important practical issues, but I was proud to speak in support. We were totally right then, we believed, and I do believe now, to support legislation that recognised an extremely small cohort of people, estimated then to be a maximum of 5,000 people, who suffered greatly through gender dysphoria. The key point that we sense-checked then was, what harm could it do? And surely it could not hurt others. Indeed, I had in mind the wonderful Jan Morris, formerly James, a brilliant historian and writer, who was brave enough to write openly about his experience. I'm sorry that the noble Lord Adonis is not in his seat today, as he took the bill through for the government benches. We worked well together, I feel, given the potential pitfalls, the uncharted waters. Indeed, listening to the noble Lord Winston today, we are still in uncharted waters, both from a legal standpoint and also a scientific standpoint. We're, in a sense, in a dangerous place, and I do regret, I fear I'm listening to a lot of misunderstanding on the part of some noble lords as they listen to others as to what they're really trying to say. But I have not heard one noble lord so far speak against full support for these people who suffer from gender dysphoria. It's interesting to note, actually, because times have changed, that the noble Lord Adonis had been advised by his then government not to accept a recommendation from the GCHR and supported by us in opposition to remove discrimination against, quotes, transsexuals in the fields of education, housing and supply of goods and services. We've moved on. We question numerous issues that remain controversial today, the role of sport and the sharing of private spaces, such as prison cells and public lavatories. Also the implications for an already married couple. After all, the minimum age for starting the process, any form of process for transition, was then 18. 20 years on, I stress that I never imagined what is happening now. 20 years on, we are in a terrible mess. 20 years on, we are presented with a bill that risks criminalising parents who try to dissuade their confused adolescent children who are bombarded with unbelievable, appalling, frankly evil social media and peer pressure from having irreversible medical treatment that can cause lasting harm, including lifelong sterility. 20 years on, I have parents begging me to stop the nightmare of teachers and others asking young children aged as young as 7 to question their sexuality. 20 years on, we're witnessing the hijacking of a rare and unbelievably tough condition for a trend that is out of control and undermines the real sufferers. This is abhorrent for both those with genuine gender dysphoria, who wholeheartedly deserve our support and protection. It is also abhorrent for now a whole generation of very young children who have been robbed of their innocence, their childhood. My Lords, it seems we do need a legislative way forward out of this nightmare, one that protects the interests of vulnerable young people, rather than seeing them signposted in a direction, often at a ridiculously young age, in the direction that is irreversibly harmful. My Lords, this bill is not it. For all the reasons we've already heard and have been expressed today, not least from the noble Baroness, Lady Love, from my noble friend, Baroness Noakes, from my noble friend, my noble and learned friend, Lord Sandhurst. I'm sorry, I get quite emotional about this, because it goes back a long way, and it was extraordinary listening to the noble Lady Featherstone, as if nothing had happened before. History is an important thing. My Lords, that legislation that we must try to create must find a way forward that also clarifies with all professional and regulatory bodies who touch upon this issue that existing laws already protect victims from all forms of verbal and physical abuse. We should not legislate merely to send messages. As a mother, a grandmother, and a peer, I urge noble lords to reject this bill.